And again, so thank you so much. My name is Sunny Mullen. I am the outreach manager here at Hope Hope Live. And we're really happy to bring to you this Hope Talk today about adaptive clothing. We have a great panel hosted by our Hope Hope Live brand ambassador, Daniela Izzie, and Billy Price from Billy Footwear, as well as Nancy Connor from Smart Adaptive Clothing. So I am going to turn it over to Danny and get things started. Danny, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Danny, and I'm, super excited to do this Hope Talk, which is the first in a series. And I am a former, I'm still a client of Help Hope Live. And Help Hope Live is a nonprofit organization that basically supports community fundraising for individuals that have unmet medical costs. So people, that are going through transplants or traumatic illnesses or injuries. I myself had a spinal cord injury 10 years ago, and doing well now. I had a lot of support along the way, and recently I had twins. I had babies a couple months ago, so I'm adapting to that, but it's been a joy. So anyway, so today I'm here with Billy and Nancy, and Billy is a business owner. He owns Billy Footwear, which basically makes shoes with zip around openings. And Nancy makes blouses and shirts that have Velcro fasteners. So I want to introduce, let's start with Billy. Billy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for the opportunity to be here today. It really is a privilege and an honor to be a part of this. So I'm Billy Price, a co-founder of Billy Footwear. I'm one of two co-founders. It was myself and Mr. Darren Donaldson that basically took a small little idea and turned it into something much bigger. I'm in a wheelchair. I broke my neck when I was about 18 years old. And when that happened, my life really changed. And I figured I had to do a lot of things, but one of those things that always escaped me was putting on shoes. And what we found was there really wasn't anything on the market that satisfied what I was looking for. So I basically leaned into it with a buddy, and we came up with a solution. And it was a real special moment in time when I was able to put my shoes on again. So then we decided to share it with the world.
That's fantastic, Billy. And Nancy, tell us about Smart Adaptive Clothing and about yourself.
Sure. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here too, to meet everyone, share ideas, and please share your ideas and questions too. So the way I came about founding Smart Adaptive Clothing was I was inspired by my father. So I was in corporate America for over 20 years, and I managed 2 business units that sold domestically and internationally in the medical device world. So I knew how to run the business, the day-to-day operation. I had a sales team, marketing team, customer service, came up with strategies, etc. And it was great. I loved it. I thought I was going to retire there. The one company in specific, I worked for 21 years. And suddenly an idea came to me because my father was in assisted living and he broke his hip, his hand/wrist, and the same hip all within about 12 months. My dad was someone who always wore a button-down shirt, slacks, shined his shoes every day up until those breaks. So at this point, he needed help. And the nurses and aides did not want to take that extra time. And I always stop and pause and say they didn't want to take that extra time, because when you're dressing someone else and maybe they don't understand, he had difficulty following the directions, they suggested that my father wear a pullover, sweatshirt, and sweatpants. And that's when the light bulb went off, and I thought there has to be a better way for easier dressing where you can have your independence, you can have the dignity that you want to, you express yourself how you want to dress. have that independence if you're dressing yourself, and make it easier for the caregiver. And the caregiver meaning a family member like myself or in a professional setting. So this went on for quite some time. My father actually passed away in July of 2016. And this just continued to bother me because I knew there were folks like my dad, or maybe someone with MS, ALS, maybe an accident, a spinal cord injury, arthritis, chronic illness. So in December of 2017, I walked away from my career and I went from medical device to starting a clothing brand, which I know makes sense, you know, going from that medical device world actually in the dental industry to starting a clothing brand. So here we are. I'm so thrilled. I make easy on, easy off clothing. I'm wearing one of my blouses. We make it fun and big and bold. We have fun contrasting fabrics. And yeah, take it away, Danny, or I'll keep going.
Wow, you know, that's amazing. And the first thing that strikes me between both of you is just the fact that you both saw a need, you know, so you came to this industry, this fashion industry, with this mindset to solve a problem. And for both of you, it was a personal experience. I mean, Nancy, it was your father, and Billy, you know, it was really your personal day-to-day experience. You know, Nancy, I read on your website that you have sort of a motto that says there has to be a way. So who else benefits from business in your clothing? Nancy, particularly, who is your demographic?
That's such a good question. And I mean, I always say it's almost limitless. So the market that we're focusing on right now directly, although it goes on bookends because it is almost limitless, the market we're trying to reach right now is anyone from 25 to 55. So when I say the bookends, people who are teenagers wear our clothing, and people who are seniors, you know, at the time, someone like my father, you could be in assisted living. So the people who are normally purchasing the clothing, they're in that 25 to 55, maybe 60-year-old time frame. So it could be a parent buying for a child, right? Or an adult child buying for a parent, or individuals buying for themselves, professionals, someone with a disability who's going to work. And I just want to share this thought. Well, it's a fact, not a thought, but oftentimes if someone has a disability and they can't dress themselves, maybe they might wear that pullover shirt. And sometimes someone is overlooked for a career opportunity to have a job interview because they don't have what's deemed appropriate clothing, or maybe they already have a position and they're trying to get a promotion, but again, they don't have that appropriate clothing. So now someone can dress themselves, or for the caregiver, it's easier for them to dress and go. And it's all about building confidence.
Sure, that's great. And Billy, it seemed like your demographic to start with was really kids. Can you tell me a little bit more about that, and how you've expanded?
Yeah, sure, no problem. Well, first off, I really love what Nancy was talking about in terms of limitless, because that was really part of our original concept as well. I mean, granted, the brand was kind of inspired by my own challenge, but as soon as we decided to move forward, it turned into something that's like, you know what, we don't want to create something that's just going to work for me. Like basically like categorizing it as solely like an adaptive shoe. It was our premise to go into the market as more like a mainstream shoe, like a universal design type shoe that just so happens to have functionality that someone like myself can enjoy. So our target was everyone. I mean, it was like, that was the limitlessness. I really like the word that Nancy used. But there's no denying that someone that needs the function, having that unobstructed drop-in solution, there's no denying how powerful that is for someone like myself, or someone that has any other sort of challenge that just needs that kind of function. And that can be across the board, you know, like limited hand dexterity, arthritis, like having a hard time bend over, paralysis, whatever. So when we first actually started the brand, we did a Kickstarter campaign, which we did 2 kids, 2 women's, and 3 men's shoes just to test the market. And the market responded really well. But then when it came time to expand, we only went with kids for 2 reasons. One is that's as far as my pocketbook could stretch. I mean, we couldn't go in all the directions at once. That was the big challenge. But the second part was kids just made sense. I mean, because you think about it as a parent, I mean, Dan, you touched on it earlier. Maybe it was on a sidebar that we were having. Like as a parent, like we want to be able to get our kids out the door quicker. So being able to have a shoe that's easy for the kids to put on and us as a parent to help them put that on, it just made a lot of sense. We started with kids, and then kids ended up being very successful as we were hoping it would be. And then it allowed us to expand both in smaller in size and then also get back into the adult category.
That's really cool. So, you know, I think both of you have clothing, and that's universal and limitless, like you both said. And it's really, it goes beyond just disability, right? So these pieces that you have can be timeless pieces, and they can last people for several periods of their lives. So, you know, they could be able-bodied and then become disabled, and this item of clothing will still work for them during those 2 phases of their lives. So that's really amazing to have, and just great for business as well. So I love that. I have a question about just, let's talk about the specifics of your style. Billy, what kind of style are you attracted to? What was your vision for how these shoes should look aesthetically?
Right. Well, that's an awesome question. And it's definitely been an evolving process. Our shoes, I mean, as you can see on the screen right there, it always has that wraparound zipper. So it goes along the side and around the toe, so the whole upper can fold over so you can drop your foot in unobstructed. That convenience. I mean, everyone's looking for convenient clothing to put on. It's not like you need to have some sort of disability to qualify to wear this clothing. It's just like, it makes it easier for everybody. But in terms of the fashion look, the original design was more rooted into more the nostalgia on my end, Darren's end. I mean, we grew up in the 90s, so it was more like, you know, Airwalks and like Converse and like Vans. I mean, that's kind of the stuff that skate shoe. That was more of the stuff that we were looking at originally. So that's what we basically built our first prototypes around. But, you know, you can't wear a skate shoe all the time to work. So you have to start getting more formal with it. So we started looking more into fashion, more like design, more bringing people onto the team that had like kind of that sense, as well as kind of know-how and knowledge of what's going on in the industry, like knowing what materials are popular, what prints are popular, what, like this year particularly, it's gonna be it'll be like camo, for example. This year we're looking at sharks. This year we're looking at dinosaurs. I mean, seeing what's trending in the market and being able to have the flexibility to then put those prototypes together to bring them to market.
Okay, Nancy, what about you?
Well, somewhat similar. So, you know, I did a lot of research, a lot of testing in the beginning, looking at the trends as well. I think that's really important. And I also think it's important, you know, what would I want to wear? This is not about me, trust me, but what would make me proud and confident? And I like to go back to the term power suit. I think we talked about that the other day, maybe. If anyone is old enough to remember the term power suit from the 80s and 90s, it was your favorite suit. It was if you were going on a job interview, maybe a wedding, trying to impress someone. You felt so good. You felt confident and powerful. People stopped and recognized. And that's what I want for people when they wear our brand. It's about the fabrics, and we source fabrics from around the globe. The fabrics have a soft, we call it a hand feel. It's really soft because someone may have in their chronic illness. Maybe they have a sensory issue or fibromyalgia. So it's really important. Washability, wash and wear. What is stylish? That again, you have that confidence. You kind of put your shoulders back. And what style? You know, we say lead with your style at Smart Adaptive Clothing. Oh, by the way, most of our women's blouses have UV protection and moisture wicking properties. This is important for anyone, especially in the summer, but it's really important too if someone may be going through menopause, someone may be on medication. People specifically with Parkinson's, they have an extra sensitivity to sun when on medication. So all of that comes into play, and we're just happy that we can provide that.
That's fantastic. Wow. I actually didn't realize, you know, how multifaceted those shirts were. So that was really informative for me and for our audience. Thank you.
Sure.
So in terms of your company ethics, or just like your ethic, how does the concept of inclusion play into that? Let's start with Billy.
Well, I mean, that's a very relevant question for sure. And if we go back to kind of day one, when I was able to put my shoes on again, and then we wanted to share it, the real mission there was to be able to create something that, the analogy that I gave and the memory that I had in my head was thinking back of being a kid on the playground at school. And I just remember that, and I use this analogy quite often, so if you've already heard it, then forgive me, but I use it quite often because it's so relevant. I just remember those kids on the playground that if they were wearing something different, the kids around them would remind them they're wearing something different. And if we were going to bring something to the market, the last thing we wanted to do was make something that looked different, that would have some sort of a neon sign. I mean, like have somebody wear that shoe, and then here we have a product that, yes, it may be empowering from a function standpoint, but to have this neon sign above it that, like, you know, it had to look like someone that everyone would want to wear. So by creating something that's both fashionable and function, like basically take fashion and function and smash the two together, what we found was it just kind of leveled the playing field. It would be a universal design. It would be inclusive design. So it's interesting how kids that are now, and we get these testimonials all the time, kids that are using our product just strictly for the function level. It used to be a situation where they would look at someone else wearing a shoe and they'd be saying, I wish I could wear a shoe like that, but they couldn't because of their limited function. But now they're wearing our shoes, and the kids that can wear any shoes, they're now looking at those shoes going like, wow, those are cool. I want to wear those too. So it's done a complete 180, you know, really in the spirit of inclusion. So that's kind of what we based the company on, that adding value and that inclusion. And that's what we've carried ever since day one.
It must be so satisfying to know, you know, that your business has an impact, and it's going to reverberate into the future. You know, these kids are going to grow up with confidence, and they're going to feel, you know, more independent and even respected in their community, and included. And that must just be such a great feeling. Nancy, how about you? What do you think about inclusion, and how does that play a role in your business, Nancy?
It's so important to us, and I have a two-pronged answer. I'll try and keep it short. So that's what we're about, is that inclusion, that you can dress as you want. And something that is amazing, it happened last year. I had a trunk show, a pop-up show. If anyone knows the brand Nicole Miller, there are two here in Philadelphia. So I had a pop-up show. That meant I brought my clothing in there. They asked me to come. I brought my clothing in there, and then we sold our clothing that day, and I donated a percentage of the profits to a nonprofit. And as I was setting up, you can see my clothing rack behind me here. I was setting up that day, and I'm always wearing my garments whenever I go anywhere. And to your point about you want to wear and look the same as everyone else in a unique way. So I'm setting up, and several of the staff members from the store said, "Are you going to get changed and put on one of your tops?" And they said, "I'm wearing one." And they were blown away because it's stylish. We have darts in the front and the back. It's tapered. They're fun. And they were like, "Oh my God, wow, we had no idea. You're right. You can't tell." So that made me feel really good that we're doing the right thing. And then the other inclusive part, I didn't really talk about myself publicly until I was building my website. So I've been living adaptive living since I was 12. I had corrective surgery for severely curved spine, scoliosis. So I wore a plaster cast from my neck to my hips for 9 months. We had the Queen Anne collar that went around my neck. So at 12, I was wearing, at the time we called them track suits. Now it's called leisure wear. But I had these big bulky sweatsuits, track suits. So I know what it's like. And to this day, I'm very aware. So my ribs are turned. My ribs don't sit above my hips. They're turned, so they protrude in the front and the back. And that's okay. So I have a stainless steel rod that's used almost the entire length of my spine. So I know, I'm aware of how clothes fit. Some clothes don't fit me. That's okay. Other clothes fit me. I'm good to go. I wouldn't change a thing. But my point is, that was important to me, and I know how it feels. I don't know how it feels for everyone, but I know when all eyes are on you. So I'm always trying to include everyone and be sensitive, because at the end of the day, we all want to look our best.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just a little personal aside here. You know, I remember being in the hospital years ago after I sustained my spinal cord injury, and you know, they're really kind of implying that I had to wear sweatpants and a certain type of clothing, like house clothes, you know. Part of that was for medical reasons, like to prevent pressure sores and other things. And that didn't really sit right with me. I was like, well, I don't plan on being homebound all the time just because I sit in a wheelchair. And I think, you know, a lot of people, when they sustain life-changing disability, that unfortunately at the beginning, they kind of feel like, you know, that they don't get to dress up anymore. So yeah, it's just life-changing to have clothing that makes you feel good and is functional too. So how about, can we talk about the industry itself, just the adaptive clothing industry? Do you guys see a shift happening in this industry? Is it growing, or is it still very niche? What are your thoughts on it, Billy?
Yeah, it's definitely, well, I would say it's definitely growing. One of which is because of, and we get this question quite a bit actually, but the baby boomers, for example. I mean, baby boomers, that's a big generation that's going to they're definitely getting older, and they need apparel that's going to be easier to put on. So the industry is definitely growing. I just think that, but I also think the industry's always been big. I think the need has always been there. It's just finally getting the attention, or starting to get the attention it deserves. I will say that it's exciting for us that we entered into the market specifically as inclusive, and so we didn't really have to, as a business, pivot to try to meet the needs. I think there are a lot of businesses that are seeing that, just in terms of the business side of it, it's a huge market that's being missed. So then they're bringing something to the market to try to pick up that audience, try to cater to that audience. But it's been inspiring. It's been fun for us to be something that's always been rooted in that category, to be able to create something that works for everybody. So I do think the industry's growing. I don't think it's going to go, it's really not going to get smaller, that's for sure. But it's been fun to see other brands like getting that attention, or like bringing it more to the surface and like trying to address the need but it's also been really fun to be a part of that whole movement.
Mm-hmm. Nancy, how about you weigh in as well?
Sure. I would say it's also both. I think it's growing even since the time I've been in the industry, which is about 2.5 years, a little more. And I still think that it's viewed as niche, but it's growing. It's going to grow exponentially. And as Billy mentioned, the need has been here. So the need has always been here, but I personally think this community has been overlooked, which is why I got into it. And I've seen a lot of companies come into fruition since my time frame, which is great. And the biggest challenge, I think, for us is lack of education and awareness. So while we're growing, and thank you so much for having this talk, and Billy and I on the talk together, the more people that can share, the better, because chances are we all know someone who struggles with dressing, whether it's a disability that could be temporary or permanent, a chronic injury, maybe surgery like shoulder surgery or breast cancer treatment. So there are so many needs, again, back to that limitless statement. So yeah, it's definitely growing. And you know, we started with the shirts and blouses. We also have shirt dresses that will be out soon. COVID kind of got us on that one. But it's definitely growing. So please share with everyone out there your network, and we can all help people together.
Great. How else has COVID, by the way, impacted your business and even the community at large? Nancy.
Sure. So COVID for us, it has impacted us, and things have slowed down on the clothing aspect, especially, you know, everyone's at home, people who are still working, lots of Zoom calls. I think we can all relate to that, right? And one of our colleagues who became a model for us, his name is Vito Cosmo. He's on our Instagram and Facebook ads, etc. He's a dear, wonderful person. He actually passed from COVID. He was in the hospital on a ventilator for over 2 months. So I received overwhelming requests for face masks from our brand to help folks, because again, in our community, many of the people we're trying to serve are immunocompromised. So we want to do absolutely everything we can do to protect our community, your friends, your family, our friends and family. And in fact, a percentage of sales from every mask is going to the Parkinson Council of Philadelphia, where Vito was the president, because we feel like he became part of our brand. Like, he's in our DNA. We will always miss him, talk about him. So that's how we did pivot, and lots of collaborations and, you know, talks like this. So we adapt. Going back to this whole talk, you have to be adaptive and pivot and stay relevant and current for the people you're trying to help.
Yeah, everybody check out the masks that she has up. They're pretty cute.
Thank you.
And very necessary right now. Billy, how about you? How about your business? How have you been coping with the whole COVID situation? Does it affect, you know, your sales, and how does it affect your customers?
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of layers for sure. I mean, I'll touch on really three. I mean, one is just the business itself. I mean, so because our business was really, when we first started, it was just Darren and myself. You know, we were working this as a second job. It wasn't like we didn't have other things going on. So it was just something we were doing in our spare time. And as the business grew, we finally were able to cut away from our existing jobs and then be able to do this full time, or even more full time, because we're already doing it full time. It's more of a second full time job. But as the team continued to grow, we really built the foundation of the business rooted in e-commerce, and then having partner relationships with brick and mortar stores. So with an e-commerce business, it's on 24 hours a day, and you're able to, other than the fulfillment side, to put things in a box and send it in the mail, you're able to work remotely. So we were fortunate in that regard to be able to just, you know, plug in wherever, whenever, to be able to make sure the business is still running. Now, in terms of like the sales, I mean, sales certainly went down. I mean, we're all through this pandemic, we've all been, given the uncertainty and everything, we all became more frugal. So obviously when you're more frugal, you're going to tighten up a little bit on the purse strings to really get a better understanding of like what's going on, and until that comfort level comes back. The thing is though, when just because sales were down, it didn't mean we were losing customers. The customer count continued to grow. We continued to engage with more customers, and the interest in the brand continued to grow, even though the sales were not necessarily growing. But now, I mean, now that confidence is getting back and people are getting more comfortable accepting kind of a new norm, that buyer confidence is coming back, and sales have also increased. But then the last thing is, when you talk about technology, you know, a lot of this stuff is done through Zoom calls, and it's incredible how far one can reach just through these digital conferences. But there's also a lot of power in doing like the face-to-face, like in-person type meetings. So we had a lot of meetings that were on the books ready to go. I mean, we hit March with so much momentum, and we had so many things, in-person meetings all scheduled, and those all had to be postponed. But that again said, you know, through technology, we can go back and try to have these conversations one-on-one just through a feed like this. But it will be nice too when we can start actually, you know, being in the same room and give each other a big hug.
That's great. You know, it makes me think that a lot of us people with disabilities actually benefit from this kind of environmental change where we get to have everything digitized. I mean, you know, just being able to participate in events and work remotely is actually really great for a lot of people with disabilities, for lifestyle reasons and a lot of reasons. So with that, I think there's also a very active community of people with disabilities on social media and on the internet. So, you know, and they can help kind of clue each other in about these brands like yours. So that's great. And the other thing that's great is that they get to shop for clothes without having to go to a store. And it's not just COVID right now, but just the fact, like, you know, going into a store and trying on pants and trying on shirts and shoes can actually be a really complicated process for some people physically, or, you know, if they don't have a caregiver to come with them. I mean, it could even be impossible. So, I mean, I guess it's an obvious thing to say, but do you agree that, you know, the nature of this digital aspect of your business is beneficial for people with disabilities?
I can go first.
Yeah, go ahead, Billy.
I agree 100%. I really do. I mean, it's interesting because all of us, because we weren't really able to get out of the house and do all these travels, it really forced us as a society to look at these alternate technologies. I mean, these technologies existed, but it was just kind of like, it seemed like it was more of a plan B. And then all of a sudden that plan B had to be plan A because we couldn't go anywhere. The engagement through those that already had some challenges to get out of the house, it's been awesome. I mean, because they've been able to like embrace this stuff and to be able to be engaged. It's really been cool. And I mean, shoot, I mean, we have customers now around the planet. So all of a sudden we can have a conversation very easy with someone in Australia or someone in Argentina or someone in the UK. And now, since we're all, you know, tapping in this technology, again, it would be fun to give a hug, but at the same time, being able to go through, you know, the video conferencing, it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish. But the one thing I was going to touch on finally is when you're talking about going into the store and buying stuff. I mean, there's the level playing field, being able to go in there and buy just like everybody else. But as a wheelchair user, I totally hear your story about going in there and trying on a pair of pants. Like, well, that just doesn't, I've never been able to pull that off as a wheelchair user going into a store to find a pair of pants. It does take a little bit of a leap of faith to find a brand and figure out the size, and then you're just going to buy online. So us as a brand, what we try to do is leverage the various technologies and to be able to communicate what the product's going to look like, how it's going to fit, to be able to, one, as a business, like reduce returns, but two, to make sure the customer is satisfied straight from day one.
Mm-hmm. Nancy, what do you think?
I think the fact that we're all at home definitely has equaled. Everyone's an equal, right? We're all at home.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness for technology, my gosh, because as Billy mentioned, we've reached around the globe, and I've had some Zoom calls with people, one of my wholesale accounts that's based in London, folks in Milan, Austria, the United States. And I don't think that would have happened if we weren't in COVID, the way we reached out to people. And I think it's really powerful because access, as you mentioned, it's 24 hours a day. The website's open 24 hours a day. Social media, we can refer a friend. And it's so important that we do have that technology. It's allowed us to collaborate in many different ways. And also, get to that creativity, those creative items that we wanted to get to, but sometimes they're not at the highest priority list. Because as an entrepreneur and as a founder of the company, there are always so many projects, responsibilities, and prioritizing. So since I wasn't out on the road at meetings and doing fashion shows, events, trade shows, etc., it allowed me to hunker down and focus. And I am super hardcore social distancing too. So I do practice what I preach. So it's that creativity, it's equalizing the playing field. We can all get on our computer together. And, we're people. At the end of the day, we want the same thing. We want to feel good. We want to provide a solution, whether it's Billy's shoes or our clothing. We want to provide a solution as Help Hope Live and as an ambassador. So it's really a holistic approach as to making the best of your situation. And again, going back to the topic, adapting.
Well said.
Yeah, well said. So we have a lot of questions coming in the chat. So I'm gonna turn it to the audience, and I think we can start addressing some of these questions. Sunny, should I just jump into the questions that are in the chat box?
If you want to read some of them off, that'd be great. I have a bunch of them written down, but if you want to you can read through them and search. There really are some phenomenal questions, and I appreciate everyone really intently listening. And just while Danny's looking, I just want to let Billy and Nancy know that we've gotten some great quotes from the audience. Someone said, "I've just browsed the women's shoes. I love them and I want them all." And someone else said, "I never wanted to wear adaptive clothes until now." So you guys are making an impact. Absolutely. We even got one quote from an able-bodied person saying, "I'm able-bodied and love the design of Billy's shoes. I'm going to get a pair for myself, and I hope it generates dialogue around universal design."
Love it.
So yeah, Danny, whenever you've got some questions, go right into it.
Okay, let's see. Let's start with Mary Liz. Questions for Billy and Nancy. How did you advertise in your company's early years? How do you find customers? Is word of mouth a large part of your company's growth? She said, "I really like what I'm seeing with the shoes and the clothing, and I agree that your clothing items can give people confidence in their appearance." Billy, do you want to address that? How did you advertise your company in the early years?
Yeah, great question. So our company, We ran 2 Kickstarter campaigns. One was a Kickstarter campaign to be able to, it wasn't even shoe related. It was completely separate. It was actually an adaptive ski glove, because I skied before I was in a wheelchair and I skied after I was in a wheelchair. And it just seemed like a fun little project to be able to generate some revenue, to be able to start the shoes. And we put a goal out there for 7,500 and we got 20 grand, which then became kind of the seed capital to be able to start the shoes. And then we did another Kickstarter campaign to get the shoes off the ground. So in both of those cases, the people that we targeted initially, it was just our own network. It was friends and family, people that we were already friends with on Facebook or whatever the case. I mean, just you'd pull out the address book of all the family members and everybody you knew, and you'd make sure you'd send that campaign and have it nice and polished to be able to generate some buzz. So that was really the foundation. And then those folks tell a couple of other folks, and those people tell another folks. And then it's just incredible how it kind of builds over time. And I will talk about the power of social media. Social media really is a remarkable thing. One of the big hits that we got in a positive way was when we actually got in store. There was a mom that we were at the Mall of America in Minneapolis in Nordstrom. And there was a mom that went in there and had a very positive experience, bought some shoes for her daughter, went home, took a picture of her kid wearing the shoes. And her kid actually was wears braces on her feet, and made the post. It was the type of post I'd seen many times before, and oftentimes doesn't get the attention it deserves. But for whatever reason, this one got legs. And in the course of 3 days, it got shared 280,000 times. So lifetime, now it's been shared about 450,000 times.
Wow. So
I just want to say that, when you have a story and you have a success story of somebody else that we didn't even know, there's power there. There really is. And if you start getting it in front of the right people, it truly is amazing how far it can stretch.
That is amazing. Nancy, how about you? How do you find your customers?
Let me say first, that's awesome, Billy. It's so cool. So initially, I was doing some trade shows, and I did trade shows in the senior community, senior assisted living, and some associations that I do a lot of networking. I belong to a lot of networking groups. And last year I was I was a designer in the Philadelphia Fashion Incubator. So that's a 1-year program that helps designers build and scale their brand more quickly than you would otherwise. So that helped me build my network in and around Philadelphia, the Northeast, etc. Also social media, that's been really powerful for me. So use the tools that are out there, and echoing Billy too, your network, build that network, because that's how it spreads. And the best referral is a word of mouth referral, because it validates what you're doing. So that's key. So everyone out here, please share.
I'm gonna jump in with a few other questions here, not to cut you guys off, but we've been seeing so many come in, and I appreciate it. Billy and Nancy, and I think you've both answered this already, but what is your selling market? I think you've said that you are worldwide now. We do have someone on the chat from the UK, and she's actually the one who mentioned that she wants to buy all of your women's shoes, Billy. So, so I think you both had answered that already, but if you could go into that, that'd be great.
Nancy, you want to go first?
Sure. Could you refresh the question? I'm sorry.
What is your selling market? Are you just US? Are you?
No, we sell globally. Most of our business is here in the United States, but we ship globally. And as previously mentioned, one of our wholesale accounts is based in the UK in London. It's samantabullock.com.
So we also ship international through billyfootwear.com. We do have retail partners that are actually stationed in other countries. We do have a retail partner in Australia, New Zealand, in the UK, in the Spain, Germany, the Netherlands, France, a number of them up in Canada. Actually, on our website, so on billyfootwear.com, there is a drop-down menu that says retail partners, and it lists all the different retail partners we have, both domestic and abroad. So that's really a good place to start.
That's phenomenal. And in that vein as well, if both of you could answer just what are your shoe sizes, what are your clothing sizes? I know you've talked about that a little bit, but specifically, what sizes do you serve?
Sure. So our kids, okay, so when we first started, let me give a little bit of a history. When we first started, we were just kids, and then we expanded into both toddlers and adults. So we have the full range now. So we have toddler 5, which equates to someone that's about maybe 14 months old, all the way up to a men's 14. And these are US sizes. So if you're looking at a UK size or like an Australian size or Euro, it is going to be a little bit different, but we do have a sizing chart in the footer of our website, as well as if you're looking on a mobile, there's a little hamburger icon in the upper left-hand corner that you can click on. You can kind of scroll down. There is an area in there that says sizing chart, and within that, it gives a translation of the US sizes into both Euro and UK.
And Nancy, how about your sizes?
And for us, you can find our sizing chart at smartadaptiveclothing.com. So for the women's, we have extra small through extra large. And for the men's, we have small through 2XL at the moment. It will expand, so stay tuned, but those are our current sizes, and it's right next to each blouse or shirt when you click on it.
Great. And I think as people have seen on the slideshow, Danny, you did own a pair of Billy footwear for quite some time, and you wore them out. How was your experience in finding the right size, or and the fit of them?
That was one of my first experiences with adaptive clothing, a pair of Billy shoes. And I think I found the shoes, I must have seen an ad on social media, I think. I don't know where I saw it. But anyway, I bought myself a pair right away because putting on shoes was such a huge frustration. And I started off my day frustrated trying to get my shoes on. I couldn't get shoes on properly because since I'm paralyzed, my toes, like I can't spread them out and like keep them, they get rolled up when I try to stuff them in a shoe, basically, So that was a huge source of frustration every single day. And even when I had a caregiver helping me, there's not much they can do to help with the toe situation. So I immediately bought the Billy shoes. It was an easy decision to make, and it really improved my life and my relationship with my husband, who helps me put on my shoes every day. I wore them for 2 years straight. So I'm about to get my second pair on the website today.
Awesome. And I know, Billy, you've talked about this maybe before we started the chat, but some people have asked about having extremely wide feet due to swelling, sensitive ankles. I know you've been looking into more wider shoe sizes.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that's one thing I missed when we were talking about sizing. Some of the typical questions we were getting earlier on was, are you going to go bigger, are you going to go smaller? And then the next question in line would be, are we going wider? So that's definitely a question we get frequently, and it's a question we hear loud and clear. We do have width options right now with the adult category. So like for example, a women's wide, actually, so let me start over. When it comes to sizing, US sizing is really weird when it comes to shoes. And I didn't really pick up on this until I was in the shoe business, but a women's wide is actually like a D width that actually equates to a men's regular width. But we have women's medium, we have women's wide, we also have men's medium, and then we have men's wide. So the men's wide is a triple E. So a triple E men's wide, that's the widest we have right now. The big question we get is, when are we going to have wider kid shoes? So we're so excited to be able to announce this, because this November we will have wider both toddler and kid shoes in a wide width. So I know a lot of customers are excited about that, but I think we're more excited because that's just something we've been missing. So it's gonna be fun to be able to add that value.
That's phenomenal. And I don't know, someone had asked about adaptive compression wear. I don't know if any of you have experience with that, or if we can, I don't know if any of you have looked into that with your clothing brands as well.
Nancy, do you want to go, or I can start?
Sure. We'll be quick. We do not have any adaptive compression wear at this point. That may be on the horizon. I don't know of any other brands out there right now. Billy may, but definitely stay tuned because that's an area of interest. I think it's really important for all of us, especially adaptive. So yeah, great question.
Yeah, we have not tapped into that, but that's also a question that we get. Compression wear is a real bear to put on.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really is. I mean, I remember wearing compression socks at one point, I mean, just for the edema and whatnot in my feet. And I mean, the reason it's so effective is because it's hard to put on. I mean, because it's squeezing. We haven't looked into that, but it's definitely on our long list of things to look at. So.
That's great. I know someone has been saying, especially for hypermobile fingers, and they appreciate your answers and wanting to look into all of that.
Yeah.
We had talked a little bit about social media and how you got your word out there. Do you guys currently use social media influencers to market your brands?
So I can start. We don't actually have, so as Nancy touched on earlier, I mean, just the word of mouth, how powerful that is. It's been incredible. So what we try to do is elevate the stories of our customers. So actually on our website, with every purchase that one makes through our website, they have the opportunity to leave a review, and those reviews get placed on our website underneath the products natively, as well as there's a tab on the site that just says reviews, and you can thumb through that. There's a lot of reviews. I mean, there's 1,800 plus reviews, and it's incredible because these customers are really taking the time to leave thorough reviews. It's not just a matter of like trying to promote the brand. It's a matter of like, I mean, we want to add value. Like the customer wants to add value to other customers going like, oh my gosh, this was a solution that worked for me. So it's great to be able to provide a platform for them to share their story, which others can see. So that word of mouth has been a powerful thing, and that's how we embraced it.
And Nancy, how about you? Do you guys use any social media influencers?
We are trying. We are building it. So definitely word of mouth right now. We do have some folks who have advertised, promote it, post it for us. They're not an ambassador influencer that's paid. We've been fortunate that people are very happy and they'll post for us, but we're actually definitely trying to get some influencer ambassadors to help broaden our message, because we want to get the information, the clothing out there to the people who can benefit most. We don't want to keep it a secret. So if anyone is out there and they're an influencer and ambassador, Danny, reach out to us.
You definitely don't want to keep either of your brands a secret. So, Danny, I have a feeling this person was related to you, but someone asked if you could give a little insight on adaptive baby clothing.
Oh, it's really important. I see a lot of like adaptive clothes, for kids so that it's easy for them. But for disabled parents, we have to dress our kids. So right now I'm using some clothes that have magnetic closures, and Velcro closures would be wonderful too, Nancy.
Okay. That's great.
Hint. Yeah, so getting the babies dressed, it's very challenging, but especially when they're squirming so much. But it does help that I have that option. That company is called Magnificent Baby Magnetic Me, and I don't think they like branded themselves as a adaptive clothing company. I think they just those little snappy things things are hard for everybody. So it's really a universal problem. Everybody hates waking up at 3 in the morning and trying to get those little snaps in the dark. So yeah.
Absolutely. And Danny, from a Help Hope Live perspective, for, a lot of our viewers might be Help Hope Live clients already. Some of them might not be. How do you maybe use Help Hope Live to fundraise for some of your adaptive clothing?
Yeah, so Help Hope Live, I've done fundraising for so many of my different needs. You think medical, it doesn't just have to be strictly medical. I mean, there's a lot of things that Help Hope Live has helped with that are kind of things that just help me with my day-to-day life. So yeah, I mean, some of the funds I've raised have gone towards, I think that might have been how I got my Billy shoes, to be honest. These funds are invaluable, especially for people with disabilities who so often are low income or are living on disability and SSI, SSDI. Fundraising can be vital. So yeah, Help Hope Live has had a huge role in my life since in the past 10 years. So I definitely recommend everybody to check out the website, helphopelive.org.
Thank you. We appreciate that as well. We appreciate having you now as a Help Hope Live brand ambassador, especially. Nancy, a question for you came through from one of our transplant clients saying that he had an LVAD for 3 years while waiting for his heart transplant. And it included a drive line that came out of his abdomen to the power source, which he obviously needed to wear 100% of the time. He knows that there's some clothing accommodations out there for those types of devices, but he never really had any of them. He just tucked it into his clothes or into his pants. Do any of your clothing adapt for devices like that?
Really great question. So not currently. We want to add those line extensions because it's so important. So that's another one. Please stay tuned for that. And if you wanted to follow up and share some specific ideas, I'd love to have a conversation with you because that sometimes helps push a project along, right? So yeah, it's really important to have those unique features that are universal for someone going through a similar procedure. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to talk to you more.
Thank you. And another one that we had was if either Billy or Nancy was if you had any advice for designers looking to start an adaptive line, and what hurdles or barriers did you run into when you started your brands?
We need more time.
Do you want to go first, Nancy?
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say just start. Excuse me. Things are not perfect. Don't wait until your idea is perfect. But if you have an idea, maybe you have a design in place, make some phone calls and test it. Test it on the people that you are trying to serve. I wouldn't just test it with your friends and family because they love you and they'll say it's amazing. But you want to test it for people who are actually going to wear it or use it, whatever it may be. Talk to people locally. Feel free to reach out to me as well. I can try and help you or have a conversation with you. But test it, reach out to people locally, associations, and be prepared. Whatever you think it may cost, it will cost a lot more. So have a sound business decision before you make anything, even after your prototypes. Just make sure you're committed to it. Make sure you have the funds because things take longer. And then, for example, we're in COVID. No one in a million years, well, I didn't predict this. I don't think many people predicted this. And that you have to stay afloat in these trying times. And, I know a lot of designers in Philadelphia, across the globe, restaurants, etc., that have closed in these times. So be prepared, make sure you fund it, get systems in place, test it out on strangers, and yeah, that's my advice.
So I echo everything that Nancy just said, but I'd also say that from on our end, like where our business is right now, I never, ever, ever would have dreamed it turned into what it's become. So like our brand, it started with, I just wanted to put my shoes on again. I mean, I couldn't put my shoes on, and that bothered me. So it's like, let's make a prototype and see if we can do it. And then it just turned into, okay, that was cool. How about that? That's cool. Why didn't we do this earlier? And then we just tried to share it, and that's all it was. It was just starting to tell the story. It's like, man, I wonder if someone would be interested in this. And then lo and behold, it turned into a big spotlight on a gap in the market. So I don't know. I mean, it wasn't like there was this master dream for us to make this massive company that I would quit my day job and then all of a sudden like be running. I mean, that never was in the original plan. It was just a matter of like me overcoming this challenge. And but I suppose, though, as the saying goes, necessity is the mother of invention. So it keeps leaning in and telling the story.
That's great. And I think in the interest of time, we only have one question left before we want to do our closing. But if anyone on the Zoom right now has any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me or even to Nancy and Billy directly, but we will certainly get your questions answered. So we have one last question for both Billy and Nancy, talking about if there were any other types of shoes or clothes that you plan or would like to see be made adaptive. Billy, I know someone mentioned sandals. I know we were talking about that earlier, and even shoes with more stretch in the toe box. And I know someone was really enthusiastic about men's boots as well. So, if both of you could take that last question, then we'll do a closing.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll start. Yeah, so we have some great ideas in the works for next steps. I mean, we've had requests for rain boots. That's a big one. Sandals, slippers, cowboy boots, hiking boots. I mean, just a bunch of like really exciting ideas. The next one for this year, the big one's going to be wider shoes for both toddler and kids. Beyond that, I think it's going to be more of an athletic shoe, as well as rain boots. And then let's kind of see where it goes from there. Oh, I think more of like a designer. Oftentimes what happens is the adults see the kids' shoes. They're like, oh my gosh, that's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I love that color. When you can have that in my size. So that's also something we're working on too.
Super fun. So for me, we're about to start that production for the shirt dresses that I mentioned. So we launched at the Philadelphia Fashion Week. Everyone wanted it. And then literally that was COVID and production stopped because our factories were making PPE. So we're about to start production of those shirt dresses soon. And then we will get into slacks and jeans. We have a huge overwhelming request for that, especially for people in a seated position, wheelchair users, and undergarments. We get many, many requests for undergarments. So, sweaters as well. So it's all going to happen at different junctures. But the next thing on the very near horizon is the shirt dresses.
That's awesome. Even undergarments, I can only imagine how important that is. So definitely when both of you get more of these together, we would love to have you back. And, Danny, I want to really thank you for taking this opportunity to moderate. We just got you on as a brand ambassador about a month ago, and now you're moderating our Hope Talks. So I really appreciate that. And, if there's maybe one last thing each of you wants to close us out with, I'll start with Billy. Is there anything, just a closing message that you'd like to leave the group on adaptive clothing, or just how it's affected your life in general?
Yeah. I guess all I would say is, first off, thank you so much for this. It was just an amazing experience to be a part of this. I guess I would just kind of close with our mission statement. And it really is, we want to be more than just a brand of success. We want to be a brand of significance. And to us, what that means is adding value and trying to make a measurable difference in the world one foot at a time. Now, we don't do that on our own. We do that as a community. So it's all about relationship, and we just look forward to continuing to build the brand to accommodate your needs.
That's beautiful. I love that message. Nancy, how about you?
Me too. It's very nice, Billy. Yes, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Thanks for this opportunity. I'm so happy to be a part of this organization and partner with you, and that we can help folks. As you help them raise funds, we can help them with their clothing, easy on, easy off. And I like to say it's not a startup, it's a movement. This really is a movement. This is a passion. And together we can make a change, and make a change next door, around the corner, the US, and globally. We're doing it. So it's about building confidence. And I always like to say the sexiest thing you can wear is confidence. So please keep spreading that message. Join the movement. I literally get the chills when I talk about this. I have the chills from head to toe. So it's a movement. We appreciate you. We need you. And we'll do whatever we can to make life easier together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nancy. And Danny, how about you? Do you have anything you'd like to leave the
Yeah,
group?
yeah, I do. I have a message, and I think lately it's been on my mind a lot, and it's the fact that I have a lot of disability pride and pride in my community. So I really want to thank brands like Billy Footwear and Smart Adaptive Clothing for helping uplift us and include us in the fashion industry.
Awesome. Yeah, I know Disability Pride Month is just wrapped up, and now we're about to jump into the 30th anniversary of the ADA as well. So it's been a pretty exciting summer, definitely in those regards. So I personally just want to thank the three of you so much for being a part of this, and everyone who joined. So thank you guys so much. We will have a recording of this up and available to anyone who would like it. And please just stay tuned. We definitely are hoping to have another Hope Talk on a different topic, hopefully in September. So stay tuned, guys. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good.